Okay, so thank you very much, guys. You all should be able to hear me well, and you should also see my screen at this point, okay? If not, please let me know. Okay, good. Thank you. All right, guys, welcome to our session today, and thank you very much for joining this session. So this session is all about, me giving you guys some idea about what kind of role a SAP functional consultant plays on a project. Okay, it's a very important question that you need to know and answer before you step into a project. So you're probably thinking about getting into SAP. I probably got trained in SAP. Or thinking about getting trained in SAP, or you already have trained in SAP and you're getting marketed or waiting for interview calls, but whatever it might be. It's important to know what kind of role that you will be playing as a functional consultant on a project. Okay, so that's the reason you're being invited because you're a part of our knowledge network, and as a part of our knowledge network here, we invite people into conference seminars like this, and we have several seminars across every week. Sometimes seminars repeat, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they have new seminars, but anyways, you will get your invitation, and everything is so good. So obviously, here's the next slide here. I have a slide that I'll be going over, and this is a listen-only seminar, which means that we would have to take your questions through an email. So please feel free to write your questions to this email address, hr@symbiz.com, SIMPBIZ.com, and me or someone will actually answer your questions and reply back to your email. And also please provide your feedback to hr@symbiz.com so that, we can do things better going forward. All right, so before we go into the real discussion, or real objective of this session, the first few things that you may need to know is who is an end client and implementation partner. A company that purchases the software is the end client. That also uses the software to run the business, and that also provides funding to implement the solutions in SAP, or end client. This is an end client. Okay, so a company that is actually doing a business, okay, like a manufacturing company or retail company or a distribution company, or they are in pharmaceutical or chemical, whatever it is. These type of businesses, they need software to run their company, to run their procurement, to run their accounting activity, to run their logistics part of the business, or inventory, or distribution, etc. So now, company like that buys licenses for softwares like SAP or whatever. Now that kind of company is called an end client or a client. Okay, but typically their major business is not IT. Their major concentration is non-IT. They are into, like I said, they are into some kind of business activities like manufacturing or distribution or retail, whatever. Now, a company that assists an end client to do an implementation is called as an implementation partner, because client's core expertise is not SAP but other business, right? So you might be running a small manufacturing unit to manufacture certain drugs, but that's your core expertise. Your core expertise is not SAP implementation. So, but you want to use SAP to run your business, but you do not know how to, use SAP or implement and use SAP. That's why you would need a company like an implementation partner like us, or any other company that does an implementation to the end client. So that's an implementation partner. So there's the two different things. An end client can hire you directly, or an implementation partner, majority of the time, they are the one who hires you on a contract basis or a temporary basis or a permanent full-time basis, whatever. So that's something for you to know. So the next thing that you need to know is about ASAP methodology. So what is ASAP methodology and how it affects the kind of what SAP consultants do at an end client. Okay? So now, ASAP stands for Accelerated SAP. They are nothing but different phases of the project. And when you are hired into a project, you might be working on a particular phase to begin with. Okay? Now, you might have been trained in SAP as of now, maybe. Okay? Some of you might even not have got trained in SAP. Training is very important. Okay? You need to learn configuration. That's very, very important. But that's not your entire SAP life. Okay? That's something you need to know. As an SAP functional consultant, you have a bigger role to play at an end client, and you would definitely need to know that. Now, the kind of role that you'll be playing depends on the phase of the project that the end client is on. Okay? You may not be hired into the initial phase of the project. You might be hired into one phase or multiple phases. Or you might be hired for a whole cycle implementation, or you might be hired for a support activity. We'll see in the next few slides. We'll see what are the different phases and what kind of roles you'll be playing each and every phase and things. Okay, so that's what ASAP methodology, and the relationship with you as a functional consultant. So, how is a client project structured? Now, let's say you go to an end client to work. Within an end client, they have smaller projects. They give a name to each and every project. All right. For example, Project 101, Project XYZ, ERP implementation, whatever. They might have a small project names they'll be giving, and they'll give you a role to play in that smaller project within the client. Okay. Now, roles could be like SAP functional architect, SAP functional lead, functional design lead, support consultant, SAP testing consultant, SAP specialist, etc. They are different roles given by different companies. For example, SAP functional architect might be doing the same kind of activity as SAP specialist in a different company. So you should never assume that, okay, SAP specialist will always do the same thing in all the clients. No, that's not how it works. All these names are given by companies, and whatever they seem appropriate, they will give names. But when you look into a title or a job requirement, don't assume things. Always look into the requirement and see what the requirement is all about. The phases of the project. The phase 1 is project preparation. Phase 2, business blueprint. Phase 3, realization. Phase 4 is final preparation. Phase 5 is go live and support. Typically, an ASAP methodology is divided into a couple of phases like this. And most of the time, clients will tend towards implementing SAP in the same sequence as you see on the screen here. Let me pause. Do you guys hear me, and do you guys able to see my screen? Okay, great. Thank you, guys. All right. So those are the phases. We'll go into each and every phase. We will discuss about it and what you'll be playing and everything. This is a sample project plan. Okay, this is basically taken from one of our internal Go ERP release projects. And if you see, these are the 5 phases: project organization, process design, detail design, testing, cutover preparation. All these translates to the same 5 phases as I mentioned before. Okay, so a lot of companies have a different name for each and every phase, but eventually they follow the same kind of structure. Okay, so now your role, they really depends on all the phases of the project. All right. You could be hired in the project organization phase, or you could be hired in the cutover preparation phase or go live phase after that. It's very well possible of when you could be hired. You will not be doing configuration in all the phases of the project. All right. You will be doing configuration only in this phase, phase 3, customize SAP. What else will you be doing in the other phases? This is what you need to know. Okay. So now, phase 1, project organization, if you see at the bottom here, mobilize team, the project management of business, they'll start putting team together. Then you start collecting raw requirements. That means that, okay, you as a functional consultant will talk to the end users, business process managers, etc., and ask them what kind of requirements they have that needs to be implemented in SAP. Okay, now SAP is a tool, okay? SAP is a tool, and you are a functional consultant, and there is a business, 3 entities, right? Now, SAP is a tool that eventually needs to be fine-tuned or made available for the business to run their normal activities, like payroll activities, like financial activities, like reporting activities, like logistics, goods receipts, invoicing, whatever it is. Those are the core activities of any business, okay? And they want to run their business using SAP. Now, you as a functional consultant needs to go and make that SAP to do what the business wants SAP to do, right? Now, in that process, you talk to the business users, understand what they want, okay? Like when I say what they want, they're collecting requirements, all right? Okay, you are a manufacturing company, okay? So what kind of materials do you manufacture, okay? Now, what are the different raw materials involved in the manufacturing of this product, and how does the manufacturing happen? How does the forecast happen? How do you buy the raw materials from the supplier? How do you pay the supplier? How do you make entries in the GL account? How do you do the accounts payable process? How does the business intelligent the reporting solution interact with ECs to extract information? All these how, why, and all these kind of questions you ask the business. All right, and then you come up with a list of questions called as key decision document or whatever. That's why that's what the workshop sessions are for. We collect raw requirements. You clarify raw requirements. You understand as-is process. As-is means what are they doing currently. A company doesn't really come into the world on day one and they want to implement SAP, right? They are a company. They have been there for a long time, and they are running their current business in some other ERP application, and now they want to use SAP, and that's why you are coming into the picture, helping the business to implement SAP so that the client can start using them. So what that means is you need to understand that as-is process. As-is means what are they currently having, what kind of legacy systems do they have, and how that legacy system or old system, legacy or old or obsolete system that they have needs to be changed in as-is process. Then you define methodologies and templates. You put together, how the requirements document should look like, how the functional specification should look like, how the conflict specification, blueprinting should look like, etc., etc. Then you identify landscape, like what kind of different landscape we'll be having, like development, quality, and production, and all these kind of landscape. A lot of things that I'm saying might be too technical for some of you people. Okay, you probably are, oh my goodness, what are you talking, all right? But this is how an SAP project happens. Now, whatever I'm just saying, you're going to feel that for real, okay? But knowing as much as possible is very important for you to get onto a project. A lot of people just do customization, only customization. They approach the market. That's how they've been doing so far. But here's another option, which will definitely boost your learning curve to know about many things. Right, so these are things that happen in the first, and the team is ready to go. Then we go into process design. That means that we prepare business process. Okay, what are the different business processes that we're going to define based on the raw requirements we collected? Okay, so from a BW perspective, we need to have a reporting solution so that we can extract inventory loads from ECC on a weekly basis. That's a requirement. From finance perspective, we need to implement, accounts payable for so-and-so processes. That's a business requirement. From materials management perspective, we need to implement purchasing of raw materials for production materials or for production. From production planning perspective, manufacturing of solvent material. All these are processes. You have to come up with a process. How do you know to come up with a process? Because you have identified requirements in the first phase, raw requirements. Then you convert the raw requirement into a good-looking process, and you complete gap analysis. Gap analysis basically means what was as is, What do you want it to be? To be means in the future. How will SAP be used to actually run their business for this particular process? And what you cannot do is called as a gap. And how are you going to address the gap is called gap analysis. All right, so then you complete requirements, you do blueprinting, then you figure out how long will it take, how much it will take, what kind of resources you need, and all those things will be done in this phase. Okay. Then you go into detailed design phase. Okay, the detailed design phase is all about customization. You've done your blueprinting, you identify a requirement, now you go and customize in SAP. Customize means configuration, or you develop objects, you do programming, whatever that might be. This is where you will go into SPRO, create enterprise structure, go into SPRO, create plans, create document types, number ranges, assign first location to whatever, create, lot number for checks. This is the place, this is the time where you'll be activating VI, content for a report or whatever you need to build. Okay, that's what you'll be doing here. This is where your hardcore, your training knowledge comes into picture. Okay, the training that you have done, all you're going to do, that customization, configuration, or programming, whatever. Obviously, you will not be doing programming because you are a functional consultant. There might be, other team members from above team might be doing programming. Then we go to testing phase. Once you finish customizing, obviously in the customizing stage, let's say, for example, you have configured, you activated a business content. You want to make sure it works. So you do some kind of unit testing, or you have created a company code. You just go and cross-check the company code because it's for unit testing. Or from materials management perspective, you have actually created a new raw material, and you go to MM01 transaction, see what drops down there. It's a configuration, a quick unit test. You do all these things while you're doing configuration. Then in the next phase, the purely testing phase, where you do a lot of testing. Okay, you move your changes from your development environment into a quality environment, or in the development environment, different client, whatever it might be. Then you prepare a test plan. Okay, what are the things that we're going to test? Right? Okay, these are the processes that we implemented based on the requirements, and we need to test each and every single process in detail. So you lay out a test plan. Okay, out of 100 processes, we're going to run 200 test scripts. Then you start writing those test scripts. Okay. Then once you finish writing the script, you execute the test script. Maybe if you write it, your colleague will execute. If your colleague writes it, you will execute. If you execute it, another colleague will review it. Kind of a process will be involved there. Then, if any issues, you track them in a defect tracking tool like an Excel sheet or HP Quality Center or Remedy or whatever it is. Then you start also preparing training documents for the business users, so that eventually, once the testing is done, you can give your knowledge transfer to the business people or the end users who is going to use that process. For example, you have implemented a process along with the other team members. SAP is so integrated that you cannot just go and do something for yourself, okay, as one team. You need to interact with PP, MM, IM, WM, FI, there's a lot of interaction in most of the processes. For example, let's take an example. Procurement of raw materials for production. All right, that means you are going to buy raw material from a supplier so that can be used in production. So in order for the procurement to happen, you need to do forecasting. In order to convert the forecast into requirement, you need to run MRP. So that's the integration of PP there. Then once you run MRP, the LM comes into picture where you create purchase requisition, purchase order, release purchase orders. Then comes inventory management where you send the purchase order to the supplier ships the product to you, goods receipt happen. Then comes warehouse management. You move the inventory that you received from the supplier into a warehouse. Then comes accounts payable where the vendor will send the invoice and you do a logistic invoice verification, and then you actually send the material, based on the invoice and the supplier, you pay the supplier, right? So accounts payable happens, right? So now all these are integration, like PP to MM to IM to WM to FI. These are a number of modules integrating in one single process. So that's what kind of integration test you need to do, integrating all the process, all the modules. Then you prepare training documents so that the business user can use the training documents to start doing transactions in SAP. Once you test it, once the process works, once you train the user, after go live, the users will start using SAP system to do the procurement of raw materials. Each and every user from different modules will be doing their own parts. All right, so now this is what happens in testing phase. Then you go into cutover preparation, the final preparation, where you verify transports. So whatever configuration you did, it goes into a bucket called as a transport in SAP. You need to keep track of all the transports. Once the transports are listed, you also need to set up all the necessary master data or how, security roles. There are so many activities that happen. Then what you basically do is you create a document called cutover document preparation. That's a document you create. That document serves as a Bible for moving things into the production environment. End of the day, after go live, the business users will start using the system based on the cutover activities that you perform. Now, a lot of things I just told you might be very new to you. Some people might be able to relate it. Some people may not be able to relate it, but this is the fact. These are commonly, happening things on an SAP project. Now, your role is played in every phase, starting from requirements gathering to understanding, doing blueprinting and doing gap analysis, finalizing requirements, customizing, unit testing, integration testing, defect tracking, preparing cutover activities. You have a role to play as a functional SAP consultant. So how many of you people know this thing? Okay, so the question is, how do you know all these things? And how you can gain your knowledge around this is one of the important questions you need to ask yourself. During this project, what does SAP Functional Consultant actually do? We don't do programming, but we work with programmers. Like, for example, there is a requirement for a report, and that needs to be programmed. We cannot use standard SAP to do it. And we don't want BI to do it, so we need to build the report in SAP. So we need to bring an ABAP programmer. You have to give him the specification called technical specification, so he can actually go and do the coding, and then you can work with them to do the unit testing. So you as a functional consultant needs to do all these things. You analyze and propose solutions as SAP. You know SAP because you are trained in SAP. Nobody else knows. All right, so you can propose solutions. Okay, we can do this in SAP. This is how we can do it. These are the transaction codes. These are the values we need to enter. You know it. You do a lot of configuration. You prepare test scripts. You plan and you execute testing. You support and you fix problems in SAP if something goes wrong after go live. Let's say, for example, after go live, when business starts using it, something is not working. They're saying, you know what, I can't do goods receipt. I can't pay the vendor. Something is not working. So you as a functional consultant need to go take a look and fix the problems. You prepare functional specification. You prepare blueprinting documents. You prepare key decisions documents. You interact with end users, you business process managers, management people, deployment people, or site people. There's a lot of interactions here. So as a SAP functional consultant, your role is larger than just doing configuration. Configuration is part of your life. It's not your entire life. Okay? It's just your part of your life in your SAP career. Okay? On any project that you're going to work. It's just part of your life. It's not your entire thing. So you need to draw things around it, okay, like what we just saw. Now there are a couple of documents that is used in an SAP project. It is very important that you need to know what these documents are. Now, not all the projects will use these documents. Not all the projects will name it like this. And these are based on my experience. Key decision document, some people call it as QADB, question and answer, but the concept is the same. You ask a list of questions to the business, and the business will give you an answer. Okay? That's called key decision document. Let me see if I can show you something. There was a team that that we had here on our project, they actually has a list of questions here. Like you see all these questions. Do you want each product with profitability, or what kind of org structure does the company have? All these kind of questions. They ask a list of questions, and we take these questions to business or analyst team, and we get them answered. So that's key decision document. Like I said, some companies call it as QADB, some companies call it as key decision document. Some companies call it as raw requirement document. There are so many different names they use, but the concept is the same. So now the requirement documents are nothing but once you finish the key decision document asking the right questions to the business, you finalize the requirement. That's the requirement document. Let me show you a requirement document, just sample. Here's a sample requirement document. There's an identifier for each requirement, which business area. It's a business intelligence requirement document. We give some kind of, properties or parameters to each and every requirement. We actually give a title, or we give a detailed information of what this requirement should look like, and etc. This is an example. And based on this requirement document, the intelligent team, BW team, they'll go in full into their implementation. All right, so that's an example. Then we have project plan documents. Let's see if I can get something for project plan. Okay. Here's the project plan. Again, similar to what I just showed you. Okay, so same thing, but more, in addition to this, we also have another document that basically lists out a detailed tracking of each and every stage of the project. For example, if you see, there's an MMWM team that's basically tracking the project in a little different way, Let me take off the filter. Anyways, so the design document, the functional design document, configuration, unit test, cycle test, QAD test, and all those things. They have their own way of tracking, each and every phase of the project. These are simple projects that happens in our organization. Then people build a business process master list that actually lists out all the different business processes, and then they go into a RISE document. They prepare something called RISE, like report interfaces, customization, enhancement, and forms. When you identify the requirements can be actually categorized into RICEF, okay? Report interfaces, customization, enhancement, and forms, or conversions, I'm sorry. So basically, so that document is also there. Then we also blueprinting document that actually is nothing but a flow chart. That basically shows how the flow of data will happen, within the process. Let's see if I can pull some documents here. Here's a small example. So he has this is a part of the blueprinting, obviously, where he's showing how the PR is converted into purchase order in a materials management environment. Okay, so that's an example. So the idea is it's basically a flow chart. So to understand the process much better. Then we have configuration documents that how exactly are we going to configure and what object names are we going to use, like what will be the company code, what will be the enterprise structure values, and how are we going to define all these things and catch in the configuration document. Then we go into the function specification document, which will actually detail out every single process in detail. Okay, that's the more detailed information. If it's going to be a program, then we'll do a technical specification document and give it to the Java programmer. Then we'll create something called test plan. Then we do test script documents. We write the test script. If something goes wrong, we'll track them with a defect tracking document. Then we'll do a cutover document that lists out everything that needs to be, followed in the sequence for go live. Then we prepare KT documents for giving knowledge, to provide our knowledge to the support team. Okay, and then we also do training documents to provide knowledge to the business team. Okay, you are an implementation team, right? So you need to also bring up the support team up to level. You also need to help the business users up to level as well. So these are very documents used in the project. Now, will all the companies use these documents now? I have seen many companies does not do configuration document. I've seen many companies does not do key decision documents, So it's like that. Some companies do, some companies don't do, and they might have a different name for it, but the idea is the same, okay? They may not be doing key decision document, but they will be combining both together here. They may not be doing configuration document, they might be combining function specification, configuration together, all right? But eventually all these things have to happen. They one or the other way in a different name. So you have to get the juice of it. Don't go with the names, get the juice of it so that you can, better put your idea when you go to client to work. All right, so now here's a program that we have with our organization called Go ERP Project Program. Now this program is all about you getting exposure into all the phases of the project, starting from requirements gathering till cutover preparation, and then we wrap you out of the project, or roll you out of the project. Now, this program is meant for anybody who has some SAP knowledge, all right? Now, if you need to gain value out of this program, okay, then you need to at least know something in SAP. You probably need to know how the process works, or you probably need to know how to do some kind of configuration. You don't need to have experience to be a part of this program, but you need to have the knowledge. Probably you did a self-study yourself, or you did training somewhere else, or you did training with us, or you've done training in a school or in an institute or school, whatever. But you need to have knowledge, okay? If you have some knowledge in some module in SAP, then you can take advantage of this program and you can be a part of a project here. You're probably learning SAP, you're trying to get in the SAP world. If you see all these things listed here, if you stand in any of these categories, yes, you can be a part of this program. This project program is aimed at for you to get exposure in each and every single phase of a project. An FICO project, a BW project, or MM project, a WM project, and those are what we have right now. And you can participate as a SAP functional consultant participant, and you will be actively doing tasks assigned to you from a project lead. And usually the projects are designed for 2 months, okay? And you'll be spending around 2 to 2.5 hours per week. So Tuesdays and Thursdays or Wednesdays and Fridays, you'll probably be attending a conference call just like this, not like this where you are muted, but that call is pretty open. It's an interactive, kind of, it's a usual official professional call there. So you basically, be a part of a team. Your team will have about 15 to 20 members, and you'll be one of them, and you'll be having a lead who will be guiding and get things going on each and every stage of the project, and you will be involved until the cutover activities are being performed and cutover preparation is done. Okay, So that's what this program is all about. And, you can talk to whoever actually sent you this invitation. You can talk to them about this program, how things work, what is the prerequisite. I manage a couple of release projects here in this Go ERP release projects program. So the important thing here is, sorry about that. So the important thing here is you basically need to have some knowledge. Okay, that's the important thing. Like I said, training knowledge, some knowledge, self-study, whatever it might be, some knowledge. Then you will see a value on this program. Okay, if you do not have any knowledge, you want to get into a project like this, it's going to be very challenging for you. Okay, but I'm not saying you will not learn. You will definitely learn a lot. Every day, every minute you spend, it's a learning experience on this project. Okay, at this point, at least you would have appreciated, or you would have at least known. Okay, so you have a lot of other things than configuration as an SAP functional consultant. Now, how can you verify whatever we discussed or whatever we heard today? Is go to any job portal and go type in SAP FICO or type in MM or WM. You start reading the requirements. If you read the requirements, you will know the clients are actually looking for people with other knowledge than configuration, okay, who has a full cycle implementation knowledge, who has knowledge in blueprinting, who has knowledge in testing, you have knowledge in configuration, you have knowledge in support activities. A lot of things the client looks for. Then you will get a picture, okay, so these are things that you need to know, okay. Now, so that's what this program is all about. Obviously, you guys can, take a look. Like I said, send an email to this email address, hr@simpbiz.com, hr@simpbiz.com. Make a note of it, and then send them an email. With, obviously, you can send your feedback, and you can also raise any questions related to this technical presentation. You can ask any question at the same time. If you're interested, you can email them, and they will be able to guide you on the next steps and things like that. Okay. So that's all I have, and it's supposed to be going for 1 hour, but I'm just going to end this little sooner here, and hopefully you all have had some idea about this how an SAP functional consultant role happens in any client. You're pretty much going to do the same thing like what I just told you, okay? Or you might, you might be doing just program or configuration, or you might be just doing testing, or you might be just doing requirements gathering, or whatever it is. But at the end of the day, when you're going to start working for various clients, product clients, you're going to get involved in all the phases of this project. Okay, it's important that you need to know. All right, guys, let's stop here, and then I would like to say thank you very much for joining this session. And like I said, here is the email address. Please make a note of it and send your questions or concerns, or your feedback, or your interest. Okay. Thank you very much again, guys. Have a good night.